Hi folks, we're going to take a look at Project Zero here and go over our solution to it. R being mine, I'm sorry, I think I'm royal, but apparently the British don't want me, so I must not be. So we're going to work on this program that puts together a shopping list for making pot pies for our party. So we got to ask their name, we're going to use the name of the prompts because we're a nice program. We're going to ask them what kind, potato, beef, or chicken. If they enter one that's not that, tell them they can't help, try again, program just ends. We don't need to do any sort of special validation, just a quick, it's not one of the ones we know about, tell them we can't do it. Then we'll ask them how many people come to the party, and depending on what kind they want to buy, we will figure out the correct number of ingredients we need to buy. So a 1 pack of puff pastry dough for every 4 people rounded up, and 1 pound of potatoes for every 3 people rounded up. If it's beef, the numbers are a little, same for the dough every time, but different numbers of beef, different numbers of chicken. And then we'll calculate the required ingredients, print out the required number of each item to buy, ask them the cost of each ingredient here, and then we'll print out the total cost and the grand total for all the ingredients. Will be a nice little helpful program here. So I started up a little project here. This is project 1. This is the 12-week section. We have the 15-week sections going on as well. So we're going to be behind them for a while. Eventually we'll get caught up right near the end. So if you need to ask what their name is, we can ask their name. So we'll say, what is your name? And then we need a place to store that. So we need a string for name, right? And then if I want to get some input, we need scanner. So I'm fond of scanner. The textbook, again, uses that other method here. I'm not really a big fan of using that because it takes other work, and that's okay. I like calling my scanner keyboard here. You can call it anything you want, but we're getting input from the keyboard, so I kind of like that. We'll say the new scanner given system.in. And again, it doesn't have to make a lot of sense. We'll figure that part out as we go. And then IntelliJ is upset with us and says, cannot resolve symbol scanner. We want to import the class. Yes, please. You're welcome to type the line yourself. But again, I'm lazy. I don't like to type more than I need to. So now that I have the scanner, I've set it up. It's new scanner given the system in, which is our standard input from the keyboard, the console input. I can say keyboard.next line. Now, again, there's a lot of nexts here you can use. I really don't recommend anything other than next line because it causes problems later on down the road getting input. So we're just going to stick to the next line, and if we need to convert, we'll convert. All right, so we got the name, and then we'll ask them what kind of pot pie. So if we are going to use the name in the prompt, we'll say, okay, name, comma, name, and then we're going to concatenate. We're going to stick those strings together here because one string plus another string is perfectly fine. So, comma, what kind of pot pies are you going to make? And then it's really nice to always tell them what values we expect to get. So I'm going to say beef, chicken, potato. Potato. Did I spell potato right? What's my... Oh my goodness, there's no E. I'm, folks, really out of it. I ran the marathon yesterday, and it's been a rough day. So suggest these particular types to them. And then I'll have a string for, I don't know, pot pie type or something is the keyboard.next line. They type in one of those things, great. Again, we're using the name of the prompt. Okay. Then we'll figure out if it's one of those particular values. How many people are coming to the party? Right. If it's not one of those, we can just end. Otherwise, we'll ask them how many people are coming to the party. You can do this in a couple different ways here. I think probably the easiest is for us to just check this pot pie type first. We can say, hey, if my pot pie type, now remember, we can't use the double equals to compare strings. It doesn't do what we want it to do. We got to use this equals here, and which is probably better because we can do equals ignoring case and say, hey, does the string match another string? Because I don't know if they type with caps lock on because they like to shout on the internet like people do, or maybe they capitalize beef because they're trying to have nice proper English. That's okay. So we're just going to say, hey, ignoring case, if it is beef, then what do we do here? And then else if it's not beef, how about if it's something else? So we can say else if, how about chicken? Chicken. And if it's not beef and it's not chicken, how about else if it is potato? Potato. And then if it's not potato, it's not chicken, and it's not beef, this else case, the default case here, if it's not one of these that do match an if, we can say I can't help with that kind of pot pie. Please try again. Okay, so we'll say, okay, we'll tell them we can't help. Program ends. If it's one that we know how to make, we can ask how many people are coming to the party. Sure. Now we might have this prompt a couple times, but it's nice to not ask them a question, right? And then have to deal with it. So I'm going to feel a little bad about it here, but it'll be okay. It will totally work out. So we're going to, let's see, because we know how many people. Yeah, that's fine. We'll just say I want a integer value for, I don't know, number of people coming to the party. It's a really long variable name, but it's okay, right? I don't really have to type it a whole lot here because that IntelliSense picks it up for me. And then you know exactly what it means here. Is well, I should probably ask them first, right? So we should say name, right? Plus, because we're a nice program, how many people are coming to the party, right? And then we can get the keyboard next line. Now you'll, with parentheses. Now you'll notice this lights up red at me. And if I hover over it, it says required type int provided string. Well, I can't take a string and save it as an integer. It's even suggesting I convert it here, which is so nice. So you need to do integer.parseInt of the next line to turn that into an integer value that we can store as an integer. Great. So now we know how many people are going to the party. Now, again, we'll do this exact same thing in each of these. I'm going to copy paste some code, have it in here more than once to feel bad about myself, right? But we hadn't really talked about functions yet. So that's okay, right? And I didn't really expect you to, we did that for the lab. So if you saw some of that, fantastic. And we could turn that into a function. That might be nice, right? We can have a public static int get number of people coming to the party, right? We can do this here. Oh, but we don't know their name. Okay, so we need to tell them their name. So we can have an argument for name. So if you tell me the name, I can get that value here. Sure, and then we could set up a scanner in here if we wanted to get that value, and then I can return the number of people coming to my party. Right, now this is nice, so I don't have to have that same code in here twice. I can just say, hey, it is equal to get the number of people coming to the party, and I just have to provide it the name string here that I know. Right, this saves us a little bit here, so, you know, it's not exactly the same code more than once. It's pretty close, but it's not exactly. I mean, I guess it is the same line, but that, you know, at least it's not the couple lines that we had here. Not too bad. I think that's kind of nice. Right, so we get the number of people coming to the party. Okay, then we need to do our conversions. Right, so we need to buy 1 pack of puff pastry dough for every 4 people, 1 pound of potatoes for every 3 people. Oh, let's do, I think I did beef was my first one here. So if it's beef here, how do we figure this out? Okay, we can do that. So the first piece here then is going to be the number of puff pastry packs. We'll have an integer for number of puff pastry packs required, sure, is going to be my number of people coming to the party divided by 4. Rounded up. We haven't done any rounding here. There's no rounding happening at all. Because if you take an integer divided by an integer, you're going to get an integer result. We've actually rounded down. But we have some options. So one of them, I don't know if you found it, is math.ceil. It will round things up. But it only works if one of these numbers is a double. Right? So we could say math.ceil, and then we could round this up if one of those values is a double. So I can say, hey, divide by 4.0, and this would be my double then for a number of puff pastry packs required. Or we could then convert it back to an integer again if we really wanted an integer value. We've got a couple different options, right? Lots of different ways this will work for us here. But another way that I sort of like as well, and it all just kind of depends how you want to tackle this here, is we could take this number and say, hey, if this is not an even number when we do the division, if we can't evenly divide, we should go add 1. So we can say, hey, if my number of people coming to the party, and then modulus 4, right, that's divided by 4 gives me the remainder. If that does not equal 0, then we can take the number of packs required and add 1. And say, hey, if there's a remainder, let's add 1 to it. Just an option here, right? Not required. It was one way. Math.ceil is another way. Perfectly fine. But this sort of works for us here. And then if we take this model, and again, you can do the same with the math here. We'll have an int for pounds of beef to buy, right? Pounds of beef to buy then, right? Or pounds of beef required. I think that's what we were calling those here, right? Is going to be the number of people coming to the party divided by what we said here, every 5 people rounded up. Sure, we could do that, divided by 5, and then do the same rounded up here if we wanted. Now, it's going to feel very similar here. We're doing basically the same code more than once, and the only thing that's different is this value and this value. So we could make a function out of that, right? We could get a value rounded up. So fantastic, let's do that. So let's do a public static int get, what is this, number of, I don't know, like values. I'm trying to think of what's a nice name for it here. Get number of times we can divide rounded up. That sounds ugly. How about just division rounded up? Division rounded up, right? Given the integer for value to divide, right? And then another value, an integer, the, what do they call this? This is the dividend, right? Dividend, and this is the divisor. Divisor, does that sound right? I feel like that's probably math words. Dividend and divisor. Is that okay? Now I have to go Google it here. Dividend and divisor. Let's see. Dividend is the number being divided. Divisor is a number by which the dividend is divided. Look at that. We did math here. So we can do that arithmetic here. So we can take my value and round it up, right? Perfectly fine. So we'll say my int result then is going to be my dividend divided by the divisor. And then if my dividend modulus the divisor does not equal 0, we'll take the result plus plus. We'll go round it up. And we're done. We can return the result. Right? Now we can do our division rounded up really nicely here. So my division rounded up here for the number of people coming to the party divided by 4, which is nice. Okay, what does it not like about that? I think it's upset about something. Division rounded up in main not be applied to what? An integer? I think it's just confused here. Let's try it again. So we'll try the division rounded up, given the number of people come to the party, and 5. No, cannot be applied to int. Oh, we have the arithmetic in here. I forgot to comma separate. That's why. These need to be commas now, right? The dividend and the divisor is 5. Okay, so we can do those with rounding up if we want. Now, what's a little bit unfortunate here is having these numbers that are just numbers. Those are considered like magic numbers. They mean something, but we have no idea what they mean to us. So a good habit to be into then is somewhere in here. Again, some people like doing this at the top. I'm not too particular here. But if we're going to do the puff pastry more than once, I might come up to the top of my program here, and I might say I'm going to have a integer for, well, this is puff pastry servings per person? No, puff pastry. Oh, how do we say it needs for every 4 people? Required. Oh my goodness, I have no words today, friends. I want the number of people per puff pastry is 4. There we go. And then we can say, hey, this is a final integer. It's sort of a fun way, purple people here, to say I'm going to set the value once and never change it again. It's just a nice habit. And then with final values, you put them in all uppercase to remind yourself that you can't go change them. They're special here. So then I can use that variable here and it'll have some meaning, right? And I can do the same with like number of people per pound of beef, right? What was that? Per pound of beef is going to be 5 here. And that way I just have nice names for my variables. It's nice to have names instead of these magic numbers. Again, not required at all, but just a nice habit to be into. Okay, so we can think of ways we can do these with functions here, with our methods here. We can do our division rounded up. Okay, then we need to go get the price of stuff. Nope, oh yeah, here's our page here. Right, and we'll do, again, our other arithmetic for the other values here. And then we'll go ask for some prices. Okay, so for chicken, it is 6 people, and then potatoes is 3 people. Apparently we eat a lot of potatoes per person here. So this is per pound of beef, per pound of chicken, and per pound of potato. Chicken, we said, was 6, and potato, I really want there to be an E in potato, is 3. All right, so we'll do this exact same idea here then, with each of these, with the other versions. So same people come into the party, but now it is number of puff pastries the same, but now this one will be my chicken one, per pound of chicken. This is per pound of potato. Right, so all that arithmetic's the same. We just pass it to our method. It does some of the work for us here. Okay, so we've done those calculations. So we know how much to buy, and we're going to print out the required number of items to buy. Fantastic. So you need to buy, sure, so many puff pastries and so many pounds of what? Now, again, we can do it here, and we can say, we'll just say name plus, right? We'll concatenate that in. Here's our nice program. You need to buy, and then we can concatenate in here this number of puff pastry required plus packs of puff pastry and plus pounds of beef. Sure. And it's the same idea here. So if you have the exact same string, right, and the only thing that's different is like a word here and a value, well, maybe this could be another function, right? Totally could be here. We're going a little crazy with functions, but it's okay. That's kind of the idea here is, what could we do to reduce the amount of code we need to write? Because we're lazy people here. So we can write a function here. This will be a public static. Now this one doesn't need to return anything, so it can be just type void here. This will be print required ingredients. And then we need to know a couple things, right? We need to know the amount of puff pastry, sure, required puff pastry required, something like that. We need to know the string for the other ingredient name, and then we need to know an integer for other ingredient, or pounds of other ingredient. How about that? Pounds of other ingredient. Now this is getting a little long here. I apologize. Let's see if I can bump that down a little bit. Tab that in here so it makes a little more sense. Oh, and we also need their string for their name, right? Because we're going to be nice here. So string for name. Now we'll say this is the number of puff pastry packs required. We'll change that variable name here. Instead of pounds of beef required, it's pounds of other ingredient. And then instead of beef, right, we can concatenate in here the other ingredient name. So for this function, right, we are ready to print. We'll give them the name. We'll give them the number of puff pastry packs required. We'll give them the word beef. And then we'll tell them how many pounds of beef they need. And it should print it out. And we can do that exact same thing here, right, with our other ones, except now this one is chicken. And it's, it shouldn't be pounds of beef required. That should be chicken required. Right, pounds of chicken required. There we go. And then pounds of potato required. Not beef here. This is what happens when you copy paste sometimes. Potato required. Right, and we can do our print again. Throw in our print here. I'm just going to add a little more spacing here, just to make that a little nicer. Our amount of potato required. Amount of potato required. This is potato. I don't know why I can't spell tonight, friends. Just can't spell at all. Okay, so we can print our required ingredients. Fantastic. Okay, then we can ask them to enter the cost per pack of puff pastry and the cost per pound of potatoes, beef, or chicken. Sure. Okay, so enter the cost. And again, hopefully you're thinking a function here, right? So public static double get cost of, and we probably need a string for item name or something, item, right? We can do that. And so we can print out here then, how much does item name cost? And again, we probably need a scanner. Sure, so we can say scanner keyboard equal to new scanner. Scanner given system in, sure. And then we can get back a double for cost. is going to be my keyboard.next line that doesn't, next capital L line that doesn't fit with a double here. So we need to convert. I'll give you my little suggestion here. Wrap double.parse double. So double.parse double of the keyboard next line, and we can return the cost when we're done. So we can get the cost of, right, for each of these. Sure. Go down one more line here. Oops, that was the wrong key. Sorry. Here it is. So we'll say we'll get the cost of, so we need a double for puff pastry cost is going to be get cost of pack of puff pastry. Right? Will give me the cost of puff pastry, and then we can get the cost of pound of beef. This is my pound of beef cost. Sure. Or cost per pound of beef. I mean, anything you want to call it here is probably fine here. Right, and we'll do these for the other ones. Puff pastry is the same, perfectly fine. And then this is pound of chicken cost and pound of potato cost. Pound of potato, and pound of chicken. Okay, so we do all of that. Then we need to print out the cost of each ingredient and the grand total for all ingredients. Again, hey, maybe it could be a function here, right? Why not? So then we can print out probably just a void method here, public static void print item and total cost. Given what? We probably need a string for item name, a string for, or a double for item cost, double item cost. Yeah, sure. So that's probably, this is just item, I guess. That one's not as nice here, because it's not going to total for us, is it? I guess we know the first one is always puff pastry, right? So a double for puff pastry cost, a string for item name, and a double for item cost. Right, we're going to do that because we told them how many we need to buy. I think we did that, right? You need to buy, yeah, this many puff pastry, this many pounds here. So we're going to print the cost of the puff pastry, right, which is cost times the quantity needed, and then the grand total for all the ingredients. Yeah, we can do that. So we'll tell them here. So we can print out, it will cost, and then maybe a $sign plus my puff pastry cost for puff pastry. And then we could print out, it will cost my item cost, item cost. Oh my goodness. For my item name, right? And then a grand total. Your total cost is, we're going to take my item cost plus the puff pastry cost. Sure, why not? And we can do that for each of these. So it needs the puff pastry cost. Oh, but that's the puff pastry cost times the number of puff pastry packs required, right? Because that's the total cost there. Then it needs to know what's our next value here? The item name. So this was beef. And then the beef cost here then, right, was going to be my pound of beef cost times my pounds of beef required. Sure. And we can do that for chicken. And we can do that for potatoes. So this is my pound of potato cost times my pound of potatoes required. And we should tell it it's potato. Potato. And same with chicken. Pound of chicken cost, pound of chicken required. And we should tell it it's chicken. Now, we didn't need these functions at all, right? We could have had just the code in these if blocks. There's nothing wrong with that. I like functions, and I like how it helps us break problems down into step by step by step by step. And now we kind of have reduced some of the additional work here. Right? We don't have to do the exact same thing more than one time. And that general rule of thumb is if you have the same code twice, you should feel bad about yourself. I mean that jokingly, but generally we want to avoid having the same code twice, and that's nice. Okay, so I think that ought to work. Let's see if we got everything here. So take a look at the rubric. Did we ask the user for the name and use it in all the prompts? I think we did. It didn't do name here. We could say name plus, I can't do that. We didn't include it in the receipt, but I said the prompts. So if you're specific about that, the prompt is like when you were asking you to enter something here. I guess we should have it here then for get cost of, right? We should have name plus how much. So we should pass in name. So we need a string for name. Sure. So that's in the prompt, right? When we're asking them to enter something, it's nice if we address them by name because it's friendly that way. Here's the name, right? I guess this one wasn't a prompt, so I'm not really following my rule here very well. I'm sorry. So get cost of then, right? We need to give the name attribute, the name variable, and then those other ones here. So name comma, name comma, name comma, and name comma. Okay, and item name. Cool. All right, I think that's happy. So we're using their name in all the prompts. We ask how many guests are coming to the party. Yep. We ask what type of pot pie they're making. Tell them if they pick an invalid option. Calculate the number of ingredients required. Calculate the cost of each ingredient. Calculate the total display of each ingredient and the grand total. I think we did it. Now we need to actually try our program, right? See if it actually works here. Here's the fun part. Let's give it a run. So I'm going to do just an easy bit of arithmetic here because math is hard for me sometimes. Oh, I missed a parenthesis there. Let's make a beef pot pie. Say one person is coming to the party, so I need 1 pack of puff pastry, 1 pound of beef. Puff pastry costs $1, beef costs $1, $1 for each. Total cost is, that didn't come out right. Total cost is not item name. Oh my goodness, the item cost plus the puff pastry cost. Look at that, and this is why we have to check our work because sometimes we do the wrong thing. Let's try it again. And then we could try some more interesting arithmetic if we wanted. So here's Eric, my name. Let's try and make a potato pot pie this time. Let's say we've got maybe 11 people coming. So for 11 people, we need 3 packs of puff pastry, right? Four people each, rounded up, right? Good. 4 pounds of potatoes because we need, again, rounded up, right? That would give me 12, enough servings for 12 people, cool. And we'll say costs $1.50 for that, and maybe $2 a pound for potatoes, right? 3 times $1.50, 4 times $2, grand total, we didn't force order of operations here. We got 8.0, 4.5. So if you force order of operations, Java will say, oh, okay, you want to do arithmetic first, then you want to concatenate it with the string. Otherwise, it just goes left to right and says, oh, here's a string plus a number, let's concatenate. Here's a string plus another number, let's concatenate. Let's try it again. Let's give it something gibberish here. Name, Eric, I want, whatever. I can't help with that kind of pot pie. Try again. Okay, cool. So let's try chicken. Eric's my name. We want a chicken pot pie. People are coming to the party. Let's say let's try an even number here. Let's try 4, make sure it doesn't round up. Cool, 1 pack of puff pastry. And then we need, number of people per pound of chicken. I don't think we did the right arithmetic somewhere here. We should have needed more chicken. So let's take a look at our chicken here. So if we're doing chicken, we need to round by the number of people coming to the party, number of people per pound of chicken. Oh, no, I'm sorry. So 1 pound of chicken will serve 6 people. I can't do math right now. 1.5 and 1.5, sure. Right, grand total cost of 3. So I think it's working well for us here. Right, and again, using some functions, just having some fun. That was the lab exercise of thinking, how could we break this down into smaller steps here? There's still a lot of stuff going on, and that's okay. Anything really could be a function here. That's okay. You're perfectly welcome to do that, and that's okay. You can break all of these up into different functions. So it's really an art of how we break it up. Again, we aim for things that put a nice meaning to what's happening, definitely to reduce code, and we can go from there. All right, if you have any questions or concerns, let me know, folks. Thanks.